The United States decides it will sail into the South China Sea in a direct challenge to China. Japan doesn't like that UNESCO is reminding the world of its atrocities. And a son of a human rights lawyer in China goes missing. These stories are coming up next. This is the Asia Brief. Hello everyone, Steve Miller with you here on this fantastic Monday, October 12th, 2015. It is great to be back behind the microphone, and it's also great to have you here with me as we start out a new week. Let's go ahead and get things rolling with a story from the South China Sea. Late last week, it was announced that the United States would send its warships close to China's artificial islands in the South China Sea. The Navy said it plans to do this sometime within the next 2 weeks. An unnamed senior U.S. official told the Financial Times the vessel would sail inside the 12 nautical mile radius China claims as its sovereign territory. The official noted that the sailing excursion would take place within these next 2 weeks in the hotly contested Spratly Island chain. When questioned about the plan, spokesman for the Navy, Commander William Marks, said,
and we certainly make no claim on any territory in that region of the world, but we are actively engaged in encouraging all sides who have a difference of opinion about those territorial claims to resolve them peacefully and through diplomacy, to ensure that the freedom of navigation and the free flow of commerce continues uninhibited. And all of that is certainly consistent with the principle that the President identified in the Rose Garden standing next to the Chinese President when he reiterated that the United States will fly, sail, and operate wherever international law allows. And that certainly applies to the South China Sea region.
When asked for details, the commander of U.S. forces in the Pacific, Admiral Harry Harris, sidestepped a direct answer, but noted it was an option he had presented to the president and said the United States must carry out freedom of navigation patrols throughout the Asia-Pacific region. Harris said, quote, "I simply won't discuss future operations. With regards to whether we are going to sail within 12 miles or fly within 12 miles of any of the reclaimed islands that China has built in the South China Sea, I will reserve that for later." End quote. China was quick to respond, and as one might expect, didn't like that the world's other major superpower might finally be challenging its sovereignty claims. China's Foreign Ministry spokeswoman, Hua Chunying, said, quote, "We will never allow any country to violate China's territorial waters and airspace in the Spratly Islands in the name of protecting freedom of navigation and overflight." End quote. The United States and the rest of the world doesn't prescribe to China's claims. In fact, to date, only Vietnam and the Philippines have actively challenged China's control over the Spratly Islands. And those, well, they haven't gone all too well. Furthermore, ASEAN is far too disjointed and weak to challenge Beijing. For the past few years, I've mentioned that either the United States or some other entity must challenge China's assertion that the South China Sea belongs to them. I've warned that waiting too long may allow them to entrench themselves and reach a point where it would be next to impossible to extricate their forces. If the United States follows through on its plan, it would be the first real challenge to China. How Beijing responds will set the stage for future engagements in the South China Sea. The question now is if the addition of the United States flint and steel to the region will ignite Beijing's tinder. Friday, UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, inscribed into its Memory of the World Register the Nanjing Massacre, which is sometimes also referred to as the Rape of Nanjing. China began fighting Japan in 1937 and says some 300,000 people died in a 6-week slaughter that included rape and decimated the area after the Japanese military entered the Nanjing region. Many historians put the number substantially lower, but there's little doubt in mainstream scholarship that the event actually took place. However, in Japan, revisionists deny any atrocities took place. The official position is that the killing of a large number of non-combatants, looting, and other acts occurred, but it adds it is difficult to determine the true number of victims. Japan's foreign ministry responded to the news in a statement saying, quote, "It is extremely regrettable that a global organization that should be neutral and fair entered the documents in the memory of the World Register, despite the repeated pleas made by the Japanese government." End quote. Normally, I discuss how this perverted view of history tarnishes Japan's regional relations, but today I don't have to. The comment section of the Japan Today website did a fair job of that, and here are just a few of those comments. User Moonraker said, "Yet letters and memorabilia for kamikaze pilots have been floated as worthy of putting forward for inclusion and, as it says here, documents related to the victimhood of Japanese prisoners also put forward and accepted. Politicized? Sure. Japan should only be regarded as a victim or having no choice." P. Townsend said this, "There's some chance, though scant, that by being truthful about the many hideous acts our respective cultures have committed, that we can learn not to repeat similar acts. But there's no chance to learn if cultures continue to deny they too did hideous things. Every nation involved in any war, any time in history, committed hideous acts. To deny that and try to hide from it is pathetic." And one more from Burr Kim Des. "Good on UNESCO. The Nanjing massacre, or in the whitewashers' language, incident, documents deserve to be archived and studied. The reaction from this government is petulant and childish, to put it politely. It's funny how the Japanese government has attacked UNESCO for being political, yet when one of their own nominations are approved, it's accepted as apparently well-deserved." And you know what? Those comments go on and on and on with over 60 more on the website. Japan is by no means the only country that likes to sidestep its dark history, but the veracity in which the Abe administration perpetuates the notion that it was somehow a victim in the Second World War is contemptible. Wang Yu disappeared on July 9th of this year during a roundup of lawyers and social activists as part of a crackdown on civil society in China. Wang represented people involved in politically sensitive cases and earlier this year served as the legal counsel for one of 5 women's rights activists jailed over a planned event against sexual harassment. Now, the Associated Press is reporting her 16-year-old son has gone missing in Myanmar during an attempt to flee China and reach the United States. According to the news report, Bao Zhaoxuan, also known as Bao Mengmeng, and 2 men helping him were taken away by local police from a guest house in Myanmar on Tuesday. The plan was for the boy to make his way to Thailand and then meet up with Feng Shu Zhao in San Francisco, where Zhao would assist the child obtain refugee entry. It's not uncommon for the Chinese government to use the family members of dissidents and activists as leverage. Bao had previously been detained in Beijing prior to his departure along with his father. He was held for 2 days before being released and having his passport revoked. His father still remains missing. It's believed that the boy will be used to put pressure on both his parents, who feature prominently in the human rights movement within China. Well, my friends, that'll do it for the news on this very first day of the week. If you have any thoughts, please take a moment and leave them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. The Asia Brief is a special feature of the Asia News Weekly podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, please share it with your friends, and if you haven't, subscribe. Subscribing is free, and when you do, the next episode is delivered automatically to you. You can subscribe on our website, asianewsweekly.net, or in your favorite podcast application. You can also keep up with more news from the region by following Asia News Weekly on Facebook or Twitter. And if you have any comments, questions, or feedback, be sure to drop us a line. That email address is podcast@asianewsweekly.net. Thank you so much for joining me, and until next time, remember to be true to yourself and to always be awesome.